Well, we'll talk about it.
Maggie, you're very pregnant.
I am, and I feel very much so. Okay, so welcome to my first training. And today we're going to talk about opinion writing at Nicholasville. Sometimes opinion writing has us feeling a little bit like this. Sometimes it has our kids feeling like that. It's pretty miserable. But don't worry, I'm here to help you. Today's purpose is to provide information about developing opinion pieces that use text-based evidence to support claims. I'm going to give you some resources that you can use in your classroom. That's the best part of the whole thing. And we're going to look at the new opinion writing rubrics that I created, and you're going to look at them as a grade level and give me feedback today so that I can change them so that they're ready to go when you're ready to start your opinion or argumentative piece. I went to a training, like the reason this whole thing started is because I went to a training a couple Saturdays ago at UK, and I was kind of like, I got this writing training to go to a little bit, not that excited about it. And then I went, and it ended up being awesome. And as a teacher, I want to share with you all the resources that I have, and so that's kind of why we're having this training, because I was provided with a lot of resources that I think are going to be useful across all grade levels. I went to a seminar part of it that was about opinion writing specifically, and it talked about how we've written opinion pieces in the past, and how with Common Core we want to move towards writing opinion pieces now. In the past, we've had kids that have written about an opinion about anything. They could write an opinion that they had about anything, and they had to support why they liked something or why they think something's a certain way. With the new Common Core, we want to move more towards them doing research on a topic, using text, so reading nonfiction texts, and finding evidence before formulating their opinion. Kids have opinions about a lot of things, but we want to make sure that they're well informed on topics that are of importance, not just like I like hamburgers because they have lettuce and tomato on them. We want them to really provide evidence, but we also want them to be able to synthesize and analyze the things that they're reading. So why not tie it all together? When it comes to opinion writings, we often find ourselves, and sometimes our students, not even knowing where to begin. So with moving forward towards what the Common Core wants us to do with opinion writing, I'm going to kind of show you some things that are going to be beneficial to you. This opinion writing training came from the National Writing Project, which is nationwide, and then there's the Kentucky Writing Project. I think some of you might have been involved in the Kentucky Writing Project. Can you raise your hand if you've done that? Okay, so you might be familiar with some of these resources, but a lot of them are really new as of 2015.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a little bit.
The director of the National Writing Project's name's Tom Fox, and I have a little video I want to share with you about, about some mini units that the National Writing Project has developed. So there's the National Writing Project that has units that are a little higher level, and then the Kentucky Writing Project has developed some mini units that are more towards elementary grade levels. So I have this little video from him that's going to talk about why we use text-based evidence for opinion writing and the importance of using some mini units. It's kind of funny, he looks like he's like in his house, so it's kind of awkward, but...
I'll be talking about how and why the mini units are put together in the way they are, but before I begin, I want to talk about the value and the promise of the mini units. The mini units place students into controversies and conversations about ideas and issues and policies, and what's most important is they ask students to become participants in those controversies. Rural students have many benefits of their place, and we know and love, all of the things that exist in rural communities. There are constraints too, and sometimes rural students feel isolated from conversations, issues, and concerns that exist outside of their community. One of the things these mini units do, in a small way, is transport students outside of their community into these larger conversations and ask them to become participants. And students really respond to this, because no matter how they may act on a given day, students want to be treated as older than they are. They always do. So students really respond to these units. They channel their sort of natural desire to argue and their enjoyment about being treated as adults. And they channel them into these reading and writing tasks. They work, these mini units, because they ask students to be smart.
Okay, so what he's talking about is the National Writing Project has developed some mini units, obviously, that you are going to be able to have access to and that you can use to help support your teaching. I know we're going by Lucy Calkins as an overwide school curriculum, but these units are really good supplemental, and they're targeted towards specific parts of opinion piece writing. So if you notice that you might need to pull small groups for something, you could use these units for that. Or if you want to do a whole group lesson using one of these units, they're a little bit, not a little bit, they're more concise than the Lucy Calkins units. And I'm going to show you what some of them look like in just a second. But he's going to explain to you a little bit more about the Well, okay, what's not on that one? Okay, so what he basically is talking about is that the mini units are good for our students because they use text-based evidence, which is where our writing needs to go when it comes to opinion piece. It kind of is scary when you think about some text-based evidence writing, because all of us might go back to LDC, and that's like a terrifying place for us to go, so we try not to go there. But this is more providing them with texts that are on their level, and then using those texts to help support our writing. What they also do is each of these lessons or units helps your kids develop smaller, shorter pieces, which is what we kind of talked about in our ELA meetings, about developing some smaller, shorter pieces, and then at the end, choosing one of those to help create your final piece. So instead of creating one big, long final piece, creating a bunch of small pieces, and then they can pick one to go forward with their final piece. What are the mini units? They are, they begin, like it says, with reading, and it's, at the training they talked about why this type of opinion writing is so important to our kids, because kids that come from the demographics that our kids come from aren't always educated in real world events, and don't always know how to formulate their own opinion about something because they don't really know about a lot of things outside of their world. So these units also help bring kids to real world problems and be able to form opinions about that as well. Like I said, the National Writing Project has big units. There's a mini unit menu, and it looks like this, and I'm going to show you. I have a packet for each of you. So.
Are there topic ideas?
Yes. Every mini unit comes with texts already chosen, or infographics or PowerPoints that you can use to help teach your mini lessons. So you don't have to search for
We'll get some other ones.
Does anybody else need one?
I graded it out actually. I mean, I know that.
Cookie dough's not going to help either. Okay, so this is an overview of the mini units that are available for through the National Writing Project. The one on the front, don't jump ahead. The one on the front, and then I like how it's organized because over here it tells you different categories, so like different topics, and then it tells you how many lessons that go with it, and then it tells you how many different types of reading, or how many different types of text. And the text might be PowerPoints, they might be infographics, they might be nonfiction pieces. So it's really good because you have your kids looking at a lot of different types of nonfiction. Then it talks about the strategies that you would use, and all of these strategies are on the National Writing Project website. And then it tells you how to respond to each of the readings. And if you look at, let's look at, well, okay. So this is more for intermediate grade levels, but a lot of them could be tailored for 3rd grade, maybe some 2nd grade, but I would suggest more 3rd through 5th with this. The Kentucky Writing Project has a lot more, has exactly the same stuff that the National Writing Project has, but it's tailored more towards primary. They also have some things that are broken up towards intermediate grade levels and middle school levels, but they have a lot more as far as primary things available. When I go to the Kentucky Writing Project website, you go to RSPDI Argument and Opinion, and I'm gonna share this PowerPoint with you. And then you can look at these mini units. So if I look at the primary mini units, there's a mini unit on texts all about the brain, which we're going to look at later. But there's another mini unit all about why are rules important, and it shows you like texts that are tailored to certain grade levels and replacement text for older students. So it's really good if you like teach collab, if you have students on different levels. I just really liked the broad range of grade levels that they had. But this one is the Kentucky Writing Project, and then this one is the National Writing Project. So they both basically have the same things to offer, they're just formatted a little bit differently. This is the National Writing Project website, and the thing that I have for you, the argument mini unit menu, when you go to the National, if you just Google the National Writing Project website, you can see that that's on there. And then, so like if we look at the first one, Teen Brains, I'm going to click on that one, by Beth Reimer. You can see here, there's a slideshow that goes with it, and then there's different outlines. If you look, I actually printed this one off for you. If you turn the page and look at, like, this is one of the focuses, this is like what you could focus on with these types of texts. It tells you the type of text and the different focus points you could have through it, which I liked. And then it breaks down the mini unit into goals just for those texts. So this is just one example of one of the groups of text that I put in your packet. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry the staple's backwards. But it kind of goes through like what a whole mini unit would look like, focused around just those texts that they have available. When you go to the back, it's the primary one. There's a primary mini unit overview. And that's exercise in the brain. And you can see it's a lot more simplified, and then the sequence for that one is on the back of it, so it goes day 1 through 4. So that would be like one mini unit using those texts for the primary one. This training was hard because I need things for 4th and 5th grade, and I need things for primary as well. And I felt like these websites, both of these websites did a really good job of providing a good array of different types of texts and different levels of text. But I do feel like the National Writing Project provides more intermediate text, and the Kentucky Writing Project provides more primary text. So that's kind of why you have the two different ones in there for you. But you can see they're kind of set up the same way.
Is it set up so that at the end of the 4 days that have a piece, like a mini piece, or?
Yeah, and it's not always like that, but for that one it is. So they would do like a rough draft one day, and then they could, you could revise and edit it, or you could just have them do a rough draft, and then go on with your next point with new texts, starting a new thing. Oops. So I'm kind of giving you a lot of information, and like I said, these are a lot of resources, which is good because I felt like they were all really quality resources, and I like how they were laid out, and I feel like they'll be really good supplemental materials for the Lucy Calkins opinion writing unit, and I liked that they already had the text available. That was like my favorite thing about all of it. Like I said, I know I'm giving you a lot of information now, but do you have any questions so far about any of this? I don't want you to feel like this is something that you have to follow. Like, that's not why I'm giving this to you. This is just more to use as you need, or if you need more resources for informational writing. So, get excited. And then, again, those are the websites for the different types of text, and I'm going to send this PowerPoint to you as well. Okay, I kind of went over the mini unit overview and how it can be adapted. So, we kind of looked at the teen brain reading strategies. And I don't think that we need to look through each of these together, but just know on this website that depending on what you want to teach, there are resources, like all of these connect to fast food, but they all focus on connecting evidence to a claim. But there's resources for all of those different types of texts, which is great.
Can you just click on one of the resources so we can just kind of
Sure,
see what
so
it
like
looks
this one, it's an informational, let's see. So it has their goals for what they want to do, and then, so like you might present this to them. And then you want to do an activity that's set where you watch a video about the teen brain, and then your activity is it says I say. So do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that, or do you have an opinion about what the video is saying? So it has like, I like that it provides different types of informational texts too, because it's not just reading a big long piece, you know. I'm trying to see, this isn't really the one I wanted to show you. Okay, so this is like, the last one's kind of like for the teacher, and this is like what you would show your kids. So you can see how you would go through this with them, and then the lesson for it is also in here. And it talks about what you would do each day. So this would be like just sharing. This would be like day one, where you share that image, you do a quick write, you talk about it, and using for example. But what I like about it is that you can look at the website and kind of try to decide, look at each mini unit and try to decide which ones maybe do your kids need, which ones are going to be most beneficial, where do you maybe need some extra resources from, and that's kind of why I like this outline, because it helps you kind of decide what you need to support across your teaching. So this is an the one that I wanted to share with you is exercise in the brain, and it's reading informational text. I chose this one because it's a lot shorter than the other ones. So this is like what I shared with you. This is the mini unit overview and what you want your kids to be able to do. in this mini unit about the brain. And then this is like what your mini unit sequence might look like. This is for the primary one. And then, so for this unit they have different things that you would pass out as far as
I don't remember.
Yes,
So, like, what they emphasized when they did this was that these mini lessons from the mini unit are really short. And if you are doing the first one, I want you to flip up the first one and write, is exercise important for learning? I want you to respond to that question underneath it.
So what happens when you get to the now I think you go back?
No, just do the first one. No. So you can write on the flap or you can write underneath it. So this is what you would do with your kids if you're doing this mini unit. Okay, what do you think? Is exercise important for learning?
Yes.
Did you just write yes?
Yeah.
Did anybody write a sentence?
Exercise is important for
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay.
That would be my thesis.
We're going to look at our first text right here, and this is something that you would share with your kids. Is exercise important for learning? Well, now I'm going to so you created an opinion. Now I'm going to show you a text. So we're going to look at this picture right here. This is the brain after sitting quietly. We're starting our research together, okay? So you might show them this picture. What do you notice about this brain? Questions you might ask your kids. You might do a brain break video, which would be fun, but I'm not going to make you do that. And then this is the other part of the text. If we could scan your brain after doing a brain break video, it would look like this one. Or a brain after a 20-minute walk would look like this. What's different?
more colors.
So some of the things that our kids might say is after walking the brain is different. I noticed that there's change in the brain after you get some exercise. It looks like brain scans show that our brains change after we walk for 20 minutes. I wonder why that is. So these would be things that our kids might share when they're talking with their partner after looking at that text. So at first we thought that exercise for the brain was good for the brain. Then we looked at this picture and what did we learn?
There's a change.
Okay. Let's look at another one. We don't really know what it is, but we know that there's difference. So your kids would write on that, like that they learned that. And then they might look at another text. This is a very simple text, but could be modified. And there's modified ones for grade levels. So they're going to do some more research. So this would go under Then I Learned. Then they might look at,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, you're fine.
So all the research is like together. It's not like go to the library, find books,
All
find articles.
right
It's all just
there.
like okay. That's very good.
And then you might show them a third text on the third day. Where they would,
So they're not actually researching.
well, this is how
You're
you're
doing it for
Well,
them
them.
because they're not. They
looking
haven't
for the
researched
text.
anything, right?
Okay, so they're doing What do you mean by research? Like looking for the
Where they're not
text to
doing
answer
individual
questions?
They're not
research.
individually researching something.
We're doing it as a class.
Well, for the mini lessons you can choose. So like you could do it where you give them these texts and they have to analyze the texts. But like with second grade and obviously just introducing this, you would do this as a class. So like the mini lessons, a lot of times are just the teacher teaching, but the resource is there so you can use it how you see fit for your kids. So you could do this and then you could do another one and they could do it independently. Does that make sense?
So you can be flexible.
So this just goes through different types of text. But not all the texts are in a PowerPoint form. Like some you could print off and they're an article or a news article or from Newsweek or Time or whatever. So this would be something you would go through with your kids so that they would learn the process of when they're writing their opinion and then they're doing research and then how does their opinion change after doing the research. So it would just be introducing like opinion writing and research to your kids and how doing research might change their opinion or they might learn something more. So it's a really basic lesson, but I just kind of wanted to share with you that there's resources, there's visuals, there's things you can do together, and then they could do them independently. And then there's obviously units that you can do across grade levels as well, and there's one on here, but I'm not going to share with you. So many units make sense, right?
So you would teach like, maybe pick like 3 or 4 mini units to teach, and then from those pieces that you like started, you would choose one to use for your portfolio.
So this one might be a whole week, and then they could use this to decide, okay, I want that to be my topic, and I want to use the research that came with this. Or like another one is all about school lunches, that might be your next mini unit. It's all about school lunches and formulating an opinion about that, and so you're going to start some writing with that. And then, so once you have collected, all these things, then they can choose what they want to write about, but they're well informed on a bunch of different topics.
But if you do 4 units, then at the end of 4 weeks, you pick one.
If you choose something on health or fitness, say the program review.
Do you have any questions? Like I said, this is a lot of just resources I'm pushing out, but it's for you to use how you see fit in your classroom. 4th and 5th grade, this is like really great because they have on-demand materials. Yeah. So, and there's all these different on-demand packets and on-demand materials for different grade levels. So I thought that you would really like that, and that's on the Kentucky Writing Project. So, basically the biggest part from the National Writing Project and the Kentucky Writing Project is the importance of students using text-based evidence to formulate an opinion, to create an opinion piece. That's what we want all of our kids to be doing. It's part of the standard, and it's where they need to be analyzing and synthesizing texts in order to be able to write well-informed pieces. There's the National Writing Project and the Kentucky Writing Project that you can use to support your teaching, and then you can take those mini units to develop a bigger piece. You might only do 2 of the mini units and do Lucy, or you might love Lucy and do none of them. But these are just there, they're available, and the texts are already there, and it's something that you could do in reading and in writing, which I really liked that part too. So, do you have any questions about that?
This almost reminds me just a
I like
little bit
overwhelmed.
LDC.
Okay.
like a
Yeah.
friendlier
it does.
But it's like, it makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I like it
Well,
better
I think
than-
everything's given to you, and it makes it easier, but it's still very much like the
Yeah,
LDC.
like giving them some kind of background on that.
But we're not writing about hunting, so it's great.
Or dissecting.
And the texts are all there, so we don't have to go find them, which is great. Now we need to, if you don't have any questions about that, like I said, I'm going to share that PowerPoint with you so that you can use those links however you want and the resources however you want. But we need to probably get into our grade level teams at tables. So we could do 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. We need to look at the, oh, okay. Okay.
Third
Fifth, fourth, third, second, first, whatever, wherever majority of you are. But I have the opinion writing rubrics, and I really want you to look at them and see if they lend themselves well enough, if you feel like they lend themselves well to this, or if there's any changes that need to be made.
Okay, before you move, I want to butt in for 1 second. The district has been working on figuring out how to do interventions for writing and how to determine a kind of a bottom 10% kind of idea. And I think our best plan right now, since Lucy Calkins is being used district-wide, the RTI coordinators from all the schools got together and said it would be reasonable for us to ask teachers to be doing the benchmarks. Are we doing benchmarks? Yes?
Teachers are.
No?
Yes,
Are we doing
doing
benchmarks?
The initial piece, the on-demand
On
start.
demand?
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
the benchmarks for the Lucy Calkins systems is.
Yeah.
That's what they said in the program that everybody district-wide is supposed to be doing. I don't know if that's official, so don't shoot me.
Well, it's
It's,
a school decision, cause it's a council decision,
Oh, I'm
so
sorry, I
they
didn't
bought
mean
it
to
for everybody, but I find it funny that they say every school's using it, or should be, because I know they're not.
Most are not.
okay, so here's what I think would work best for us. In Jessamine County, the recommendation was, once you do your benchmark assessments for writing in your classroom, take the bottom 5 kids, send those names to me, and I would do an additional Ames Web assessment benchmark to see if they're in the bottom 10%. I think that's way too much, because we're going to have a billion kids in writing interventions that we can't serve,
Or they don't really need it.
or that don't really need it. So my recommendation is, if you've got a kid like Michelle does, she came to me already and said, look, this kid is very low in writing, I'm really concerned. I went ahead and did an Ames Web benchmark, found that he was in the 10th percentile or below, and we went ahead and started tier 1. I mean, as of like now, because this has only been happening over the last few days. Tier 1 is simply all those main things that you do in your classroom, which is why I passed that out to you again. I did change 2 things on here. I changed it to correct writing sequences, and that would be my responsibility to do and to inform you of the results. You don't have to do that, because that's a time-consuming and annoying way to score, but it is more